Hello everyone, this is Mohammed from Python Ninja YouTube channel and we will learn together today Lambda function in Python. Lambda is a Python keyword that allows us to write a numerous function in one single line. We follow this syntax, we use Lambda as a keyword or reserved word or statement, and then we will keep space and we will use the parameters or arguments. How many arguments, that depends on the situation or on the coding task, and we will have expression. Lambda is a function that accepts an infinite number of arguments. So here we can define many arguments or parameters, but we will only have one expression. So remember, Lambda accepts many different of arguments or parameters, but only we will have one expression. Okay. Also, Lambda can be seen as a shortcut for one use or a short period of a program execution. Okay. So if you want to like exclude some portion of a function and include it in Lambda in a shortcut, so you can use Lambda. Okay, now I will keep this expression out. When we will reach to that equation, I will discover more. Now let us define a function in a normal way that will compute the square, okay, of a number. So I will pass number here. Number is a parameter. Okay, and here we have argument here, and which is a number. We will return. Okay, we can return a print function, or we can print directly, or we can just return a number. So I want to return a print directly, number by number. Okay, so this will give me the square of the number. So when I recall or invoke the function, I have to pass the number here, and it will return 5 by 5. The result will be 25. If I want to, for example, let's check for 9, it will be 81. The question is, can I replicate this execution, this implementation using Lambda? The answer is yes. So I want to use the square, okay, and in this square I want to use, for example, with Lambda. Then how can I implement with Lambda? I will use Lambda, which is a reserved keyword in Python, allow executing a numerous function. Okay, so after using Lambda, I have to use the parameter or identify the parameter or argument. I have one parameter, so I will pass num here as a first argument or one argument. Okay, then I need to pass the expression. Before the expression, I have to use colon here, and the expression, what is the expression I want? I want from this expression num multiplied by num, which is the square. So the first thing, we use Lambda as a keyword in Python, then we keep space and use the parameter. Okay, after the parameter we use colon, then we use num by num or parameter by parameter to return the square function. This replicate defining the parameter the square function in the normal way. So I want to print the square L of the number 5, and it will become a 25 because we passed now 5, which is the parameters. Okay, this Lambda will become anonymous, and we assign this function to this square as a parameter. So we recall now the new name instead of by passing to Lambda, and we have one parameters, and the expression is a 5 by 5, which will become a 25, or we can submit 7 if we want to see 49, for example. Okay, so remember that we start by typing Lambda, then we identify the parameter, then we identify the expression. Now the question is, how many parameters can I use? You can use as much as you want. How many expression? You can use only one expression. For example, if I want to have the function for multiply, and let us remove this square, and multiply will multiply two numbers. Okay, so I have number 1. Okay, so I will have another parameter. To have another parameter, we use comma, and I will use num2. Okay, and I will multiply num1 by num2. So now we have two parameters, and we still have one expression, and I have to modify this to multiply but now I have to pass also 2 arguments to this multiply, because I have already defined 2 parameters. So I want to multiply 7 by 3, which will become 21. Okay, so we then extended the number of parameters in this equation. The question is, can we use lambda outside like the numerical value or digital domains or like numerical domain? Yes, for example, if I will use, for example, name as a variable, I want to assign lambda to that variable, and I will use parameters now like first name, I will give it f name, and I will define another parameter which will become unname from the last name. Now I use colon to have the expression. What is the expression? I need the expression to be if statement, and inside this statement I want to say hello. Then I want to use the first name, and I will keep space and will use last name. Then I will use, for example, in this tutorial, okay, and when I have this function, our lambda function will print it, okay. So let us print and recall the first name and last name. I will pass the first name, for example, Mohammed, and I will pass the last name, my family name. And now we can run, and we will have hello my name, and in this tutorial, and we end with exclamation mark. And yeah, we expanded the utilization of lambda from using it with a normal way, and now we add different functionalities to a string domain. And also we can use lambda with conditional execution. How to use this lambda with condition or with if condition? Let us to define a function that will check the age, and this function, it will become lambda function, and I will to pass the age, and it will return true if the age, for example, is greater than or equal 35. Else it will return, sorry, if else it will return false. Okay, now I have one expression, sorry, I have one parameters, which is age, then I have colon, then after the colon I only have expression, okay, one expression. Meaning, when I say one expression, so I cannot use double line, okay, the expression. So this expression will return true if the age is greater than 35. We check the age now, which will become here. How can I recall the function? We can invoke the function. Let us use a print, and I want to recall this check age, and I want to look here how many parameters. Only one parameter, so I will give the age 25, and because the 25 is lower than 35, it will return false. But if I will to give the age as example 20, it will become true. Another also utilization of lambda. So we covered the 3 utilizations so far with the numerical domain, okay, and with the string domain, and we now use with Boolean domain when we check. Let us also see how can we pass lambda inside, for example, high order functions or classes. In the previous tutorial, we learned together how can we initiate default dict from collections module. I want to import default dict, which is a dictionary, not the view dict, which is a dictionary just come with default value, and I will have the default dict for my bibliography information, and this will be an instance from the default dict. And look here, this default dict will accept the default value. For example, we can pass int to have the integer value if we ask this dictionary about key, which is not exit, or we can use a float, or we can use lambda. Okay, and I will use only lambda without any parameter. Just I need this expression, which is not available. So I can use lambda without any parameter, but with one expression. Okay, so just let us give for this bio. I want to give the f name. okay, and name, for example, I want to use my name, okay, and the bio, okay, of, for example, last, or let us to say a name. As usual, we give the family name, and now when I print this bio, and we'll see a dictionary with my first name and with my last name, and when I will retrieve the key, which is the first name. Sorry, I have to pass F name here. F name. F name. Sorry, it will become Mohammed. And when I will pass age, age is not listed as a key here. It will give me not available because I use not available here as a default value, okay, inside the default tip when the key is not available, okay. I can also use Lambda function to do some functionalities within the string values. For example, suppose I have this full name as a Lambda function which will accept the F name and the last name. And what we will do in the F name and the last name. So I have two parameters. I will have now the exhibition. The exhibition will be, for example, this is F name. I will use the strip function. Please go back to the string data structure to know what I mean with the strip. Strip is a method that will remove the white space, the space that become before the string. After removing the white space, I want to use .lower to return or letter small letter. Then I want to concatenate this space, and I want to concatenate also the last name dot strip if there will be any white space. But here I want to use upper to return the family name with the capital letter. So I have two parameters. I will have here one expression, and this expression will process each parameter independently here. And this is useful like application to string data type. Let us print this full name and pass our two parameters here. The first name, for example, because I have application to strip, I need to add white space here. So this is called white space. And I want to type my name is Mohammed like this. The first three letters now are capital letters. Dot lower will return all letters to smaller. Then I want to pass the other argument to this full name function. And I want to add also white space like this. And because I want to have the family name as upper, I want to pass it to, for example, lowercase, just to see if this function works. Let us print here. Now the white space has been removed from here, okay, like this, and the white space have been removed from object main. Now we have only this regular space, and MOH can now become lower letter because I use a method dot lower, and this family name because I use dot upper, so the whole letters in my family name become capitalized, okay, or in capital letter format, because capitalize here is a different method than the upper. Capitalize only make the first letter as a capital letter. Remember that we can use lambda also without any parameter. For example, an a equal lambda, and we will have the expression, for example, not available like this. When I recall this NA, remember to keep parentheses, otherwise you will have the memory address. So I call this function, I have no parameters here, then it will give me not available. This is a form of lambda without any parameters. Now we will also remove this parentheses to see you that, or to see you, or to visualize to you that when I don't use parentheses, it will print the memory address of the function. Okay. I want to also highlight another example. So let us combine lambda with a regular function. So we have a quadratic, the quadratic function, which is a function in math that come in this form. We have constant. We multiply it by x, and this will be x squared. Then we add it to b multiplied by x. This is the quadratic function, and we can last add the constant, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. So go back to ask Google about the quadratic function, and to solve this function using normal function and lambda, I want to now design a function that will accept a, b, and c as parameters, and x will be come from lambda. So let us define a quad function. Okay, and I want to pass to it a and b and c, and this will return lambda with x as a parameter. So what is the expression will be here? The expression is easy. I will have a multiplied by x, which is squared here. Then I have b multiplied by x. Then I have c. So this is easy. So we have this function or this equation. We can program this or code this in this way. I have ABC will come from normal function, and I have only, because I have only one x here, I can use lambda. Even I have 2, 3x, we can use it in this format. So let us define the result will be a quad function, and I will have to pass these parameters in a form of argument. I have 10, I have 5, I have, for example, 40. Okay, when I print the result like this, we will have now a function, okay, dot lambda, and we will have the memory address, okay, the memory address. If I want to see how the result is executed, so these are chained to each other, so I have to add another parenthesis. So the first parenthesis of the quad function for the mandatory parameters for the original function, and the second parenthesis is to pass x. I cannot pass x inside here, so I cannot say x will equal, for example, 4. I will have error here, type error, because only I have 3 positional arguments that must be passed. So because I have lambda, lambda will take its own parentheses, and I only have one variable here or one parameter, so I want to consider, like, for example, x will be 3. When we execute this function, we will have 145 as a result of executing this quadratic function. And now we have this quad function with its parameters, and then we have another argument in isolated parentheses, which will be related to this lambda. Finally, I want to close this tutorial with lambda, because we covered a lot about lambda, and this lambda now will be used in the next tutorials when we want to introduce map, reduce, and filter in Python. Just I want to close this tutorial with nested lambda. Can we have a nested lambda? Yes. So in the previous example, we make like nested functions together, but one in the normal format and one with the lambda. But the nested lambda, for example, if I want to have nested lambda, which will become lambda, and this lambda, I want to have lambda of x, okay, and what is the expression of lambda? It will be another lambda, okay, and it will be another expression. Now I want to print now x and y. Remember, this is a nested form of lambda. Y should be here. I have a nested form of lambda, so I have the first lambda, then I will have expression, with nothing, then I will have another lambda. Okay, then the expression will take the x and y to print, which will be equal, for example, this f1. Okay, this will come with x. Then I define diff. Okay, f2. Okay, and in f2, sorry, diff f2, and with a parameter y, it will be like this. Okay, so this is the equivalent form of this lambda, and we now will call this a lambda. Remember, after each expression, what are the parameters here? It should be in isolated parentheses. So I will have x, for example, hello. Then I have another lambda. Each lambda should have its own parentheses, okay? And I will have here world. And now when we execute this, we will have hello world. And this is the form that is used to to make nested lambda together. And that's for today's tutorial, and see you next tutorial.